our last Zoom meeting, okay? We are having a woman to woman next Thursday. However, it will be online. It's already been recorded. It just brings the first season of 2020 together. There will be a summary from Susan. There will be our last verse of scripture in the 40 Days of Love, and we're just bringing that all together with a bit of worship next week. So you don't need any codes or anything like that. All you need to do is log on to Facebook or go into YouTube, and you'll be able to get that next Thursday night. But it will be premiered, so you'll be able to find out what time that is showing next Thursday. And if it's, say, 7 o'clock or whatever, and you can't make it at 7, it's always something that you can watch later on. But it's always quite nice when we all log on to Facebook at the same time, and then we can comment and things like that. And that's also nice, because it lets me know that we're actually all together, and that's what Women to Women is all about. So we are journeying through the 40 Days of Love, and so far we've been asking that important question. I want to know what love is. I want to know the power of God's love. And we've established over the last 5 weeks that love is patient, it's kind, it always speaks the truth, it doesn't keep a record of wrongs, because love is forgiving. Okay, so that's what we've looked at so far in this series. So you may have only dropped in and out of one of the sessions or 2 of the sessions. Some folk on here have been at all of the sessions. Huge round of applause for you, well done. But we've been also sharing them on the Facebook page so that everybody managed to catch every session. So we've really been enjoying this series, and we've been enjoying the sessions that we're coming together on a Thursday night to share. And you've been sharing very openly, very honestly, your testimonies about relationships and where you're at. Many of you have shared privately with me. There's been quite a lot of phone calls over the last 5 weeks, which I'm absolutely privileged to be able to do, and to hear that God is moving and speaking to you. I'm hearing a lot of people saying that maybe the relationships on your relationship list, or somebody called it last week the hit list, maybe you're still safely or looking for a way to safely navigate through them, but what God has been doing is changing you. He's been changing your heart in that process, and that's excellent as well. So tonight I just want to get straight into it. So we've been in 1 Corinthians chapter 13, okay? It's known as the love chapter in the Bible, and I've said all the way through, you hear this chapter quite a lot at weddings. Quite a lot of the time you hear the reading at weddings or at baptisms, and we've been jumping forward and backwards. We've been really in the first 6 verses, and on Thursday next week I'll finish off by sharing with you verse 7. But tonight we're going to go to verse 5 again, where it says, yeah, thanks Corinne, I forgot all about the PowerPoint. Just as well, Corinne's on the ball, so that's good. She's just put on the screen there what we've looked at so far. So we've just come on the meeting just now. That's our summary, that's where we've been so far. Thank you, Corinne, I forgot I was doing a PowerPoint. So tonight we're going to look at verse 5, and verse 5 reads that love isn't selfish. Love isn't selfish. You know, the world that we live in today, it's a very self-centered world. You know, it's from this generation that we get the word selfie, okay? That's how self-absorbed this world is that we live in. Many books on the bookshelves in the bookshops will be entitled things like self-awareness, self-assessment, self-help, self-promotion, and how to be a better self-saving. You know, these are titles of books that you can find in the self-help section of a bookstore. So we are living in a very self-conscious society, and we're going to have 2 verses on the screen, hopefully in the next slide. One where the prophet Isaiah says this about this self-centeredness. In chapter 56 and verse 11, he says, they all turn to their own way and each seeks his own gain. And then Proverbs 28 verse 25 in the TEV version says, selfishness only causes trouble. So in this series, we've been looking at what love is, and we've been looking at what love isn't. So last week we looked at the fact that love is forgiving, but we also looked at the fact that love doesn't keep score. It doesn't keep a record of wrongs. It's forgiving. And tonight we're looking a wee bit further into the verses of scripture in chapter 13, and we're reading there that love isn't selfish. You know, selfishness actually kills love. It kills love. And in this series, we've been looking at how we can love like Jesus. And tonight we are learning that Jesus's love is not selfish. And we're going to end with that. In the book that Rick Warren has written, entitled 40 Days of Love, he refers to selfishness as the enemy to healthy and strong relationships. So that's actually our prayer, because we've been writing out this relationship list. These people that are in our lives, our nearest and our dearest, the loved ones, the people that we want to have good, healthy, strong relationships with. And Rick Warren in his book 40 Days of Love is saying, in order to have strong and healthy relationships, we cannot be selfish, because selfishness kills that kind of relationship. For when a relationship is strong and healthy, what it usually means is that both parties are all in for each other. Okay, now those relationships that we're looking at in the 40 Days of Love, they're not just marital relationships. Not everybody at Women to Women is married. Some of us have been married, some of us are married, some of us are about to get married, and some of us can't think of anything worse. Okay, so it's not just about marriage. Okay, we're talking about all kinds of relationships. We're talking about parent-child relationships, your best friend relationships, that relationship you have with your close neighbour. It could be someone that you're very close to, that you work with, and it could be someone at your church that you're looking to create and nurture healthy relationships. And can I just say that maybe everyone that's joining in this series, you look at your relationship list and there aren't any problems, then praise the Lord, because maybe you are doing some of these things as God has prescribed. Maybe it is that you are loving like Jesus in your relationships, and that's actually why you're not seeing any problems in your relationships. Maybe there's people on here that can actually testify that yes, your relationships are great and they're strong and they're healthy, but it's actually because maybe you've already learned a few of these lessons, maybe many years ago, and that's why your marriage, or that's why your friendship, or that's why your working partnership is so good, is because you've already applied some of these key principles to your relationships. And it'd be really great maybe at the end of tonight for you to share some of these things if you feel that you want to share. But when you look at your relationships on your journal list, when you have a look at the list of those names, I wonder if there is a relationship there that is struggling. And I wonder if that particular relationship is struggling, maybe because the other person is being selfish. And maybe you're struggling or suffering because that person is being selfish in that relationship. If that is the case, can I just take you back, just very briefly, to the lesson that we did on speaking the truth in love? Because maybe tonight what God is doing, he's joining the dots for you tonight. And maybe he's saying, right, the problem with that relationship is that that person's very selfish and they're maybe not taking your needs into consideration. So maybe you need to go back to that lesson on speaking the truth in love and maybe pray and ask the Lord to make a way, applying all those things that we learned that night about praying for an appropriate time, praying for the appropriate words, and actually maybe being able to have that conversation with that person in love about the relationship and about how selfishness perhaps is destroying elements of your relationship. But that's maybe something that God is speaking to one particular person tonight. I don't know. But when I was preparing for tonight's lesson, it's interesting how the Lord sometimes takes you back. And the Lord took me back to the age of 17, when I entered into quite a serious relationship. And I was in that relationship, it began around the age of, well, 16 and a half, just about to turn 17, right up until I was about 22. It ended when I was 22. So it was actually quite a long relationship, a very serious relationship. And it ended, and at the time when it ended, it was absolutely devastating. It was devastating for me, it was devastating for him, it was devastating for both our families. However, as I reflected on that relationship during the week, I realised that there are many reasons why that relationship didn't work, okay? And I could be here all night sharing the reasons why. But the main reason, if there was a main reason why that relationship didn't work, it was due to selfishness. Because neither of us was willing to put the other person first, okay? Neither of us was willing to put the other person first. We were too busy concerned with our own self and selfish needs and desires. And a relationship like that, sadly, won't survive. It won't, because you're just going to be going in opposite directions. So it leaves you feeling undesired. It leaves you feeling unloved, rejected and broken. And ladies, I don't want that for any of our relationships. So whether it's your spouse, your friends, your parent, your child, your co-worker, on that list, we want to nurture healthy and strong relationships here at Women to Women. And selfishness, if I say that correctly with a sore lip, selfishness is not going to help them to grow. So tonight, we just want to conclude our Zoom sessions by looking at how do we then overcome selfishness. Well, there are a few scriptures tonight just to give you before we sort of bring this together that should help us. And actually, a lot of this is common sense tonight, and it is quite straightforward. So the first one is this, and we should have another slide now, please, Corinne. The first key is to build each other up. And I actually think that we are really, really good at that at Women to Women. And I'm not just being biased, because I sit back sometimes and I just watch you all, and I watch how you build each other up. I watch how you send each other cards, and I see you supporting one another and speaking words of encouragement to one another. So I actually believe at Women to Women in particular that you guys are good at that. But we don't want to just be doing it at Women to Women. We want to be building each other up in all of our relationships. So Hebrews 10 verse 25 in the TEV. I've got quite a few different translations for you tonight, and I do encourage you, if you're reading the Bible, just to try out different translations, because sometimes God just speaks to right into a situation sometimes with that particular translation. So the TEV says, let us not give up the habit of meeting together. Instead, let us encourage one another. So really well-known scripture there. Let us come together, meet together, and encourage one another. Okay? Sometimes it could be like, I just don't feel like going out to Women to, well, not during lockdown, but I don't feel like going out to Women tonight. I could quite easily sit at home watching maybe a movie, but I might just go. And actually, when you do go, you might actually just be a blessing to somebody else. You know, it's not always about going to something to see what we might get from it, although I do hope you get lots out of coming to Women, but actually you just being here tonight as a blessing to somebody else, or an encouragement to somebody else, because you might just have a word or something for someone else that actually helps them and where they're at. And that's what I love about coming together in women's ministry in particular. Why I'm so passionate about women's ministry is because it really does share God's love in a beautiful, beautiful way. We do get these lovely opportunities to be able to build each other up and encourage each other. So in your relationships, when you look at your relationship list, think of ways to encourage and build up the people on your list. Number 2, giving to others. It says there in Ephesians 2:10 in the TLB, it is God himself who has made us what we are and given us new life from Christ Jesus. And long ages ago, he planned that we should spend these lives in helping others. You know, we heard a few weeks ago about the Samaritan, the Good Samaritan, when we looked at that love and showing compassion. And for those of you that heard the sermon on Sunday, I don't think I need to say too much else about how powerful sharing God's love through generosity and being compassionate, you know, that is the antidote to selfishness. When we put other people's needs before our own, when we behave like a Good Samaritan without expecting anything in return, that is not selfishness, that is selflessness. And it's that shows Christ's love better than anything else. So the next slide we should have is about number 3, and another antidote to selfishness is practicing denying yourself. And there are a couple of good scriptures there. Philippians 2 says, don't be selfish, don't live to make a good impression on others, be humble, thinking of others as better than yourself. Don't just think about your own affairs, but be interested in others, really interested in others and in what they are doing. Your attitude should be the kind that was shown us by Jesus Christ. So that's actually taking an interest in someone else's life. You know, I mentioned on Sunday when I was preaching that busyness kills love. And I do actually think that it does. I think when we get busy with our own lives, it actually prevents us from doing this one, being interested in other people's lives, because we're too consumed by ourselves and what's going on in our own lives and our own agenda, our own to-do list. We quite often don't have the time to be able to be interested in others. And it's not that we don't care, we do care, but actually, if we want to be selfless, then sometimes what we need to do is deny ourselves in order to be loved in that relationship with that other person. Luke 9 verse 23 says, then he said to them all, whoever wants to be my disciple must deny themselves and take up their cross daily and follow me. So this is what love is. It's not selfish. The antidote to selfishness is taking time for each other, making time for each other, building each other up, showing each other encouragement, being compassionate, denying ourselves. That's like putting aside our own needs in order to maybe help someone else's need. And at times, you know, we need to maybe deny some of the things that we really, really want. And there was a couple of examples that I was thinking of during the week in relation to denying ourselves. So we see it as parents sometimes, you know, you long for some time on your own. You would quite love to just sit down and read a book or escape for half an hour, or you're busy with your own work schedule or something. Some of you may have experienced this during quarantine, try to work and look after children, and your child is running around your feet and they want your attention, they want you to play with them, they want you to answer a million questions, they want you to play a game, but you can't ignore them. You give in and you put aside that which is that you wanted to do, that which you had to do in order to respond to that child. That's selfless love. That's not being selfish. That's putting the needs of your child before your own, or your husband or your boyfriend or your close friend comes and they want to sit down and watch a movie, and they want to watch a particular movie, but you would quite love to watch a rom-com, for instance, and you end up just saying to them, do you know what, just you choose. You know, that's selfless love. You don't want to watch an action film, you don't want to watch that documentary that they've chosen, but you say yes because you want to just be with them and watch a movie with them, and you just want to be selfless in that moment. That's being selfless. Or you run yourself a lovely hot bubble bath, lots of bubbles, candles, the place is smelling, how gorgeous is that? The phone starts to light up It's your best friend. You're thinking, what's she phoning for? Will I answer it or will I go in the bath? But no, you answer it. She's having a problem. She's in tears. So you say, okay, what's wrong? Can I help you? You go back to the bath 2 hours later, the bath water's freezing, the bubbles have gone. That's selfless love. That's putting someone else's needs before your own. And I'm sure you'll have other stories yourself of how unselfish behaviour has impacted you when someone else took that time, when someone else gave up their time to be with you, or they came to an appointment with you, or you know they were cooking the dinner but they just said, you know what, I'll leave that, it doesn't matter, I don't care if I burn the chips, how are you, what's going on, can I help you? You know, they were just kind of these silly examples, but you may have other examples where someone's unselfish behaviour and their act of love was just so warming that they took the time to be with you. And maybe even as I'm saying that, some of you might be thinking of something, but you know, denying yourself. That verse of scripture in Luke, and it says, whoever wants to be my disciple must deny themselves. They must take up their cross daily and follow me. That's our call, to follow Jesus. And I don't know about you, but yes, they might have been simple examples, but the greatest example of selfless love was when Jesus Christ took to the cross and he bled and he died for each and every one of us. He was without sin. He didn't deserve to be there. He had done nothing wrong. The Lamb without blemish. And he hung there, and he could have at any time called for 1,000 angels to come and take him down off that cross. He could have performed the most amazing miracle, and we know that he's a miracle man, those of you that have been following Abide. He could have done anything like that. He could have said, no, not just now, come back another day. He didn't do anything like that. He did it all for us. It's the greatest act of love that ever was and will ever be. And it was selfless. It was selfless. So if we're looking for an example tonight, mine were pretty wishy-washy, simple, but that is pretty big. And if we're looking to follow in Christ's footsteps, then we need to deny ourselves, follow him, and love each other. And we've heard so far that love is our highest goal. It's what's most important in life. Faith, hope, and love, but the greatest of these is love. We've also heard that love is patient, that love is kind, that love always speaks the truth. Love does not keep a record of wrongs, but instead, love is forgiving. And we're adding to that tonight that love is not selfish.